Hello, and welcome to Sleep Sanctuary, a space created just for you, a place of calm, where every story is designed to guide you gently into a state of relaxation and rest. Here, you can leave behind the rush and noise of the day and immerse yourself in a world of serenity. Tonight, we'll embark on a journey together, one that begins deep within a forest, hidden from the eyes of the world. It's a story about the Garden of Eternal Bloom, a place unlike any other. In this enchanted garden, every flower holds a secret. They hum softly, whispering the memories of those who have forgotten their past, moments of joy, sorrow, and hope. This garden exists not just to preserve these memories, but to help those who enter discover something profound about themselves. As the narrator of this story, I will guide you through every step. You'll feel the cool shade of the trees, hear the gentle hum of the flowers, and perhaps, like me, confront a memory you thought was long lost. But for now, there is no need to think ahead. All you need to do is relax, listen, and allow the story to unfold naturally, like the opening of a flower. Close your eyes if you wish, and let my voice carry you to this hidden world. The journey is not rushed, every moment is designed to soothe and calm. Together, we'll step into a story of beauty, mystery, and healing. Take a deep breath, settle in, and prepare to drift toward the edges of dreams. This is Sleep Sanctuary, and tonight the garden awaits. Before we step into the story, let's take a moment to prepare, to set aside the cares of the day and embrace a sense of calm. Find a comfortable position, whether you're lying down or sitting, and gently close your eyes if you feel ready. Let the world fade for now. This is your time. Take a deep breath in through your nose, slow and steady. Feel your chest expand and your lungs fill with air. Hold it for just a moment, and now exhale gently, releasing the tension in your shoulders, neck, and back. Let your breath flow out like a soft breeze. Let's do that again. Inhale deeply, feeling the air cool as it enters, and then exhale slowly, letting go of any lingering stress. With every breath, imagine yourself becoming lighter, as though the weight of the day is simply melting away. Picture yourself in a quiet forest. The air is fresh and crisp, filled with the scent of pine and blooming wildflowers. You feel the soft earth beneath your feet, cool and grounding. Above, the trees sway gently, their leaves whispering a soothing lullaby as they dance in the breeze. Listen closely now. Do you hear it? A faint melody in the distance, like the hum of something alive yet peaceful. It's not a sound you can place, but it's comforting, inviting you to move deeper into this forest. As you walk along the path, you notice the sunlight filtering through the trees, creating golden patches that dapple the ground. The world feels slow and safe here, as if time has no meaning. With each step, you feel more connected to this tranquil space, more at ease with yourself. Now, focus on your body. Notice how the tension fades with every step you take. Your jaw loosens, your shoulders drop, and your hands rest softly. Even your mind begins to quiet. Any lingering thoughts are like leaves floating on a stream, just let them drift away. Ahead, you notice a path winding through the trees. It's narrow but inviting, lined with moss and wildflowers of colors you've never seen before. The melody grows a little stronger now, like a faint song carried by the breeze. You don't need to rush. Take your time as you approach this hidden path. Feel the anticipation building, not in a hurried way, but in a gentle sense of curiosity. The air feels warmer here, tinged with the scent of something floral and sweet. You pause for a moment, standing at the edge of this mysterious trail. Breathe in deeply one last time and notice how relaxed your body feels, how calm your mind has become. You are ready to step forward. When you're ready, take that first step with me, and we'll begin the journey into the garden of eternal bloom. Let yourself feel safe, knowing that this story will unfold softly, like petals opening to the sun. Your journey is just beginning. The forest was unlike any I had wandered through before. It seemed endless, its dense canopy filtering the sunlight into soft, dappled patches on the forest floor. The air was alive with a hushed vibrancy, as if the woods themselves were holding their breath, waiting for something to unfold. I didn't know what had drawn me here, only that the path I'd been following seemed to disappear beneath my feet. The further I walked, the quieter it became, no rustling animals, no chirping birds, just the faint rustle of leaves above and the sound of my own footsteps. Yet, beneath the stillness, there was something else. It started as a faint hum, almost imperceptible, like a melody carried on the wind. I paused, straining to listen, but the sound seemed to fade the moment I tried to focus on it. Shaking off the sensation, I pressed on, letting my feet guide me deeper into the trees. After what felt like hours, I stumbled upon it, a narrow path hidden beneath a tangle of ivy and wildflowers. It was so overgrown I almost missed it entirely. The air around it was different, heavier somehow, as though it held the weight of secrets. A faint golden light shimmered along the edges of the trail, not strong enough to illuminate, but enough to draw me in. Curiosity prickled at me. Something about this path felt deliberate, as though it had been waiting for me to find it. I hesitated, one foot on the edge of the trail, the other still planted in the ordinary world. Should I turn back? But even as I considered it, the hum returned, louder now, carrying with it a strange sense of comfort. As I stepped onto the path, the forest seemed to change around me. The air grew warmer, carrying the scent of jasmine and something sweet I couldn't name. The ground beneath my feet was soft, cushioned by moss that seemed to glow faintly with each step. The hum grew more distinct, almost like a song now, though I couldn't make out the words. The path twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the woods. Around me, the trees seemed to lean in, their branches forming an arch overhead as though protecting the trail. I ran my fingers along their trunks as I walked, feeling their ancient strength beneath my touch. Finally, the trail widened, and before me stood a stone archway covered in ivy and blooming flowers. It was impossibly tall, reaching high into the canopy above. A soft golden light spilled from beyond the arch, illuminating the moss-covered ground in front of it. I stood there for a long moment, unsure whether to step through. The hum now seemed to come from beyond the arch, a sound so alluring it was impossible to ignore. Whatever lay on the other side, I knew there was no turning back. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward, and the world behind me disappeared. The moment I stepped through the archway, the air changed entirely. It was warmer, sweeter, and alive with the hum I had heard before, only now, it was everywhere. It wasn't just a sound, it was a feeling resonating in my chest, gentle but insistent, as though the very ground beneath me was humming with life. I looked around and found myself standing in a place unlike anything I had ever seen. The garden stretched endlessly, a kaleidoscope of color that seemed to glow softly, as if each flower held a light of its own. Petals shimmered like spun silk, their edges outlined in gold and silver. The blooms were every color imaginable, and some I couldn't name. The hum grew louder as I walked further into the garden, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was soothing, like a chorus of voices blending in harmony. I realized, as I listened closer, that it wasn't just a hum, it was a symphony. Each flower seemed to sing its own note, its own story, and together they created something beautiful and unexplainable. I knelt beside one of the flowers, a delicate bloom of pale blue with streaks of white running through its petals. As I leaned in closer, I heard faint whispers, words, emotions, fragments of something I couldn't quite grasp. It was like listening to a story told in a language I almost understood. "You hear it, don't you?" The voice startled me, but it wasn't harsh. I turned to see a figure standing nearby, cloaked in flowing robes that seemed to blend with the garden itself. Their face was partially hidden, but their presence was calming, as though they were as much a part of this place as the flowers. "Yes," I said softly. "What is this place?" "This," they replied, gesturing to the garden around us, "is the garden of eternal bloom. Every flower here holds a memory, one that has been forgotten by the person it belongs to." I stared at them, unsure what to say. They continued, their voice steady and warm. "Some memories are too painful, too joyful, or too significant to be carried. When they are forgotten, they find their way here, preserved in these blooms." I looked around, suddenly seeing the garden in a new light. Each flower wasn't just beautiful, it was alive, holding a piece of someone's soul. I looked around, suddenly seeing the garden in a new light. Each flower wasn't just beautiful, it was alive, holding a piece of someone's soul. "Why do they hum?" I asked. "They sing their stories," the figure said. "Every bloom tells a tale of what once was. Joy, grief, love, loss. Every human experience can be found here. And every visitor to the garden has a story waiting for them." I felt a chill despite the warmth of the air. "Does that mean there's a flower for me?" The figure didn't answer right away. Instead, they gestured for me to follow. "Come," they said, their voice calm but insistent. "Your journey has only just begun." And so, with the hum of the garden growing louder in my ears, I followed them into the heart of the blooms. The deeper I ventured into the garden, the more vivid the blooms became. Their colors seemed to pulse with life, their hums weaving a symphony that wrapped around me like a comforting embrace. The mysterious figure I'd met, the gardener, walked a few steps ahead, their movements fluid, almost as if they glided through the vibrant landscape. We stopped before a cluster of flowers, their petals glowing softly in shades of amber and violet. The gardener turned to me. "Each of these blooms holds a memory," they said. "Listen closely, and the stories will come to you." Hesitant but curious, I knelt by the nearest flower, a delicate blossom with petals that seemed to shimmer like molten gold. As I leaned in, the hum shifted, and a voice began to emerge, soft at first, but growing clearer with every breath. It was a story of joy. A young girl laughing in a meadow, her arms full of wildflowers. The warmth of the sun on her skin, the sound of her laughter echoing in the open air. I could feel her happiness, pure and unfiltered, radiating from the flower. It was as though the memory itself had been preserved, untouched by time. I pulled back, my heart unexpectedly light, and moved to the next flower. This one was a deep crimson, its petals sharp and defined. As I leaned in, the hum turned heavy, almost mournful. The story was different, darker. A man sitting alone by a fireplace, his shoulders heavy with regret. The room around him was empty, save for a single, crumpled letter in his hand. The ache in his chest was palpable, and I felt tears sting my eyes. Not all memories are joyful, the gardener said softly, their voice pulling me back. Some are burdens left behind because the pain was too great. I nodded, unsure of what to say, and turned to a third flower, its petals a soft, silvery hue that seemed to shimmer like moonlight. The hum was gentle, soothing, and the story it held was one of hope. A woman standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind in her hair, staring out at the vast ocean below. Despite the challenges she'd faced, she felt free, her heart open to the possibilities ahead. I sat back, overwhelmed. "These are incredible," I whispered. "It's like feeling someone else's life, their emotions." The gardener nodded. "Each memory is unique, yet universal. We all carry joy, sorrow, and hope within us. The garden preserves these moments, allowing them to live on even when they are forgotten." I glanced around at the endless blooms. But why? Why preserve them here? The gardener's gaze seemed to pierce through me. Because memories, even those we forget, are a part of who we are. They shape us, even in their absence. And sometimes, those who wander here find what they've lost. The words lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. My chest tightened as I wondered, was there a memory here that belonged to me? The garden seemed to grow quieter as the gardener led me further into its heart. The flowers around us still hummed softly, their colors glowing faintly in the golden light, but there was a new weight in the air, as though the garden itself was holding its breath. We stopped in a small clearing surrounded by tall, luminous blooms. These flowers were different, larger, their petals shimmering like liquid light. The hum here was deeper, resonating not just in my ears, but in my chest, pulling at something buried deep within me. The gardener gestured toward a single bloom at the center of the clearing. It was unlike any I had seen before, its petals a swirling mix of indigo and silver, as if the twilight sky had been captured and folded into its form. The hum from this flower was stronger than the others, its melody tinged with an ache I couldn't quite place. "This one is yours," the gardener said softly. I stared at the flower, a knot forming in my stomach. "Mine?" They nodded. "A memory you've forgotten, or perhaps buried. It has waited for you here, preserved and untouched, ready to be reclaimed. I hesitated, my breath catching. The idea of uncovering something I had hidden away felt both thrilling and terrifying. What could it be? A moment of joy I had let slip? A wound I had tried to forget? Go on, the gardener urged gently. It is time. Kneeling beside the flower, I reached out a trembling hand. The petals were impossibly soft, like silk against my fingers. The moment I touched it, the hum swelled, and my surroundings faded. The garden blurred, replaced by a vivid scene that unfolded around me. I was standing in a sunlit field, the air warm and filled with the scent of wildflowers. A younger version of myself stood nearby, laughing with someone whose face I couldn't quite see. The two of us were happy, carefree, the kind of joy that feels endless in the moment. But then the scene shifted. The sky darkened and the laughter faded. The person beside me was gone, and I stood alone in the field, the weight of loss pressing down on my chest. I felt it all, the ache of absence, the sting of regret, the desperate attempt to hold on to something that had already slipped away. Tears filled my eyes as the memory faded, leaving me back in the garden. The flower before me glowed softly, as if sharing my sorrow. "You lost someone," the gardener said, their voice tender but firm. I nodded, my throat tight. I tried to forget. It was too much. And yet, even in forgetting, the memory remained, they replied. It is a part of you, woven into who you are. The ache in my chest began to ease, replaced by a quiet understanding. The memory, though painful, was mine, and it had shaped me. The gardener placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Now that you've remembered, you can begin to heal. I stood there, the hum of the garden enveloping me, feeling both heavier and lighter than before. For the first time in a long while, I didn't try to push the memory away. I let it settle, a part of me once more. I stood in the garden for what felt like an eternity, the memory swirling within me, vivid and raw. It felt like a wound freshly reopened, but instead of pain, there was something else, a sense of clarity, as though I had found a part of myself I didn't realize was missing. The gardener remained silent, allowing me the space to process what I had seen and felt. Finally, they spoke, their voice low and steady. Memories, no matter how painful, are meant to be held, not buried. In holding them, we honor the experiences that shape us. I looked at the flower before me, its petals still shimmering softly in the golden light. It no longer hummed. Instead, it seemed to pulse gently, in tune with the rhythm of my breath. But how do I move forward? I asked, my voice trembling. How do I carry this without letting it consume me? The gardener stepped closer, their presence grounding. By accepting it. Pain is not meant to be forgotten but understood. By acknowledging what you've lost, you create space for new growth, like a flower blooming after a storm. I nodded slowly, my heart still heavy but no longer unbearable. The memory wasn't just a source of grief, it was also a reminder of joy, connection, and love. I realized I didn't have to fear it. I could hold it gently, like the flower itself, without letting it dominate me. The gardener gestured to the flower. Now, it is time to release it. I blinked at them, surprised. Release it? Yes. The memory is part of you, but it doesn't need to weigh you down. Let it stay here, in the garden, where it will always be safe and cherished. You can visit it whenever you wish, but it no longer needs to burden your heart. I hesitated, the thought both comforting and unsettling. The memory was mine, could I truly let it go? But as I gazed at the flower, I felt a gentle sense of understanding. The garden had preserved the memory for me, keeping it alive when I couldn't. It had given me the chance to confront it and, now, to release it. With trembling hands, I cupped the flower gently, its petals warm against my skin. I closed my eyes, focusing on the memory one last time, not to hold on to it, but to honor it. I whispered a silent goodbye, not to the person I had lost, but to the pain that had lingered in its place. As I released the flower, it began to glow brighter, its light spreading outward until it enveloped me. When the light faded, the flower stood tall and vibrant, humming once more, a part of the garden, not a weight on my heart. I turned to the gardener, tears streaming down my face, but a sense of peace settling within me. "Thank you," I whispered. They nodded, their expression serene. "You've taken the first step. Now, the garden will hold the memory, and you can move forward with an open heart." The garden felt different now. Its hum, still gentle and resonant, seemed to carry a new note, one of resolution. The air was lighter, the colors around me brighter, as though the garden itself had shifted in response to my release. I stood quietly, absorbing the stillness, the peacefulness that had settled within me. The gardener watched me with a knowing expression. "You've done what many find difficult," they said softly. "You faced what was buried and allowed it to bloom." I nodded, feeling a quiet strength in their words. It wasn't easy, I admitted, but I think I understand now. The memories I've carried, even the painful ones, are a part of me. Letting go of the pain doesn't mean forgetting. It means finding peace with it. The gardener gestured toward the path we had taken to reach the clearing. The garden has given you what you needed. Now it's time to return. I turned to follow their gesture, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. Part of me didn't want to leave. The garden had become a sanctuary, a place where time seemed to stand still and where the complexities of life felt simple, even beautiful. The gardener seemed to sense my hesitation. "This place will always be here," they said gently. "The garden is not bound by time or place. You may return whenever you wish, whether in dreams, memories, or quiet moments of reflection. But for now, your journey lies beyond these blooms." I took a deep breath, letting their words settle. Slowly, I began to walk back toward the archway, the path winding gently through the glowing blooms. With each step, the garden seemed to hum a farewell, its melody soothing and encouraging. As I reached the stone archway, I turned back one last time. The garden stretched endlessly before me, its colors blending into the soft golden light that seemed to radiate from its core. It was as if the garden itself was alive, a keeper of stories and memories, ever present and eternal. "Thank you," I whispered, not just to the garden, but to the gardener, to the flowers, and to the memory I had reclaimed. Stepping through the archway, I felt the warmth of the garden fade, replaced by the cool, earthy air of the forest. The hum grew fainter until it was nothing more than a distant echo. The forest seemed unchanged, as though the garden had been a dream, but I knew better. The path before me was clear, bathed in soft sunlight filtering through the trees. I felt lighter than I had in years, the burden I had carried now transformed into something beautiful, a memory no longer weighed by sorrow, but cherished as part of who I was. I glanced over my shoulder one last time, half expecting to see the archway, but it had vanished, leaving only the dense forest behind. Smiling softly, I turned forward and began walking, my heart open, my mind at peace, and the hum of the garden forever lingering in my soul.